Today you get two for the price of one, the Alcatel One Touch Idol and Idol Ultra. As you can see, they are closely related, not only because of the name, especially because of the features and size. As you can see, it's just spares of millimeters difference, but especially in the thickness, you will feel it, because here we're talking about around 8.0, 8.2 millimeters, and the Idol Ultra has about 6.6 millimeters here at the edge and 7.2 millimeters in the middle, and they are both a little bit thicker around the lens in the middle here. But this 1 millimeter difference, you will feel it, especially because the Idol is the lighter one with 112 grams and the Idol Ultra has 123 grams. So the feeling is quite different. And by the way, on the back side we have a camera with 8 megapixels for photos. Videos are shot in 720p, and as you can see in both models we have that back is not removable, so the battery is fixed inside, you can't switch it, and we're talking about 800 milliampere hours at the Idol and 1820, so almost the same on the Idol Ultra. And that's a little bit tricky because in relation to the size of the display, that's a little bit underdimensioned, because we're talking about some 15%, 14-15% under the middle in both cases, in the relationship between the battery size and the display size, so a little bit too small. So that's a compromise you have to do with those very small and tiny bodies in both cases. And the other thing is, as you can see, the display is really a big one. As you can imagine, we have 4.66 inches, or in millimeters it's 118 millimeters in the diagonal, so that's 48 by 103 millimeters. So that's a little bit tricky in this case, that you have to watch carefully for your battery. On the other hand, this is, as you can already see, and let me go a little bit closer, a different picture image quality. Here we go. I hope you can see that. Or let's go to the same picture. No, not this one, but this one. Okay, and in landscape mode you can compare both. Okay, the lower one, this one here, this is the Idol and this is the Idol Ultra. And I hope you can see in the video too that you have a different picture, because this one is white and this one is blue, and if you know smartphones, you can imagine this one is an AMOLED display and this one is an IPS. So AMOLED means that the pixels are glowing by themselves, so we have better contrast, and IPS is kind of LCD, so the pixels are illuminated from the backside, so we have a little bit less contrast. But nevertheless, if you look from the sides, you have a great viewing angle, almost 180 degrees on both. So like IPS you might know from the iPhone, this is the technology of this one, of the Idol, and AMOLED is a typical, often seen in Samsung models, so it's, you have a little bit more, the colors are more vivid. Some call it not natural. That's a kind of, you have to like it or not. But it really, for me, looks very natural and vivid. The pictures on the AMOLED displays, but you have to like it, of course. But you can see the size of the displays are the same. And now we come to the pixel, and that's a big difference. We are talking about 540 by 960 pixels on the Idol, and about 720 by 1280 pixels on the Idol Ultra. So we have a totally different sharpness, pixel density. We're talking about 87 pixels per square millimeter, or 230 7 ppi on the idle, and it's 155 pixels per square millimeter on the Ultra, or 316 ppi on the Idol Ultra. So almost 78% more on the Idol, more pixel density than on the Idol, on the regular Idol. So that's a big difference, and especially this one, if you compare it to the prices, they are really kind of low. We're talking at the moment about 230 euro without any contract for the Idol, and 270 euro for the Idol Ultra. So if you compare this price to the size of the display and especially to the sharpness of the display, both are really great. The Idol is 43% above the middle level, and the Idol Ultra is almost 64% above this line. So compared to the price, you'll get a really big and sharp display. The processors are almost the same. It's a dual core. I don't know, I haven't got the full specs from Alcatel One Touch at the moment. I only know it's both dual cores. It's 1 GHz on the Idol and 1.2 GHz on the Idol Ultra. Both have a RAM of 1 GB and internal memory of 16 GB. So it's left 12.8 and 12 GB out of the box. I don't know why this difference, because both are running under Android 4.1. So that's, I don't know the difference, but it's of course quite enough. But you don't have a memory, a slot for a memory card. You only have on the Idol this one here. This is for the micro SD card, and on the Idol it's quite the same. And here we go, that's a big difference because, from both models, because you have two versions of the Idol. In this case, you see the dual SIM version, because on this side, again, you have to press, that's a little bit tricky, down here and pull this off, and this is the second, I hope you can see it. Let me call it like this, the second micro SIM slot. And there's another version with only one SIM slot on that side, and on this side, this is replaced by a micro SD slot for a card of up to 32 GB officially. So sometimes it's running with 64 GB cards too. So in this version you have a slot for micro SD card, but inside only 4 GB internal memory, and that's the trick on that one, because as you might have heard, under Android 4 you can't move your apps to the SD card anymore unless you will root your device, and that's nothing if you're not a pro. So for normal people you can't do it, and so you have to live with your internal memory for all your apps, and let's call it from 4 GB. You will have, I don't know, I don't have that model here unfortunately, I guess around 1 GB or maximum 1.5 GB left for all your internal stuff. So that's apps and calendar and contacts and messages and whatever. You can remove to the SD card only multimedia files at least. But not your apps. So you should figure out if 1 GB or 1.5 GB maximum are enough for you and for your apps. It's depending on what kind of apps you're using. If you're using games a lot, it's not more than, let's say, 20, 30, at least 40 games that internal memory. And if you're just using Skype or WhatsApp and whatever, it might last for 50, 60, 70 apps, some sort of that, but not more. So it's limited. So you really should figure out if you do not better choose this model with a dual SIM slot over here and 16 GB internal memory. I guess in most cases this should be the better choice. Okay, and that's enough, I hope so, for the first impressions of the Alcatel One Touch Idol and Idol Ultra.